In this video, we'll be implementing the Angular Material side nav component. And what we'll be doing is we'll be moving some of this content here, like the navigation, and also these inputs into their own side nav panels. Before we do that, let's take a look at the Angular Material official documentation and see how they implement that. If we go to the documentation, and at this URL, inside of the components, if you scroll down on the left side until you see the side nav, and that's right here, then on the side overview content, select the specifying the main side content. Select this one. And here they have a really good example of what we're trying to do in this video. So we'll be applying something like this. We'll be adding two side nav panels, one on the left side, and that's this here. One on the right side, that's for like our settings. And they do that by using the position and setting it to the end. That's going to set it to the right side. And then we'll have a main section for like our component buttons. Like this will act as our pages. This is where our pages will show within this section here. Before we implement this snippet though, we'll need to set up our TS file and also our CSS file. If we go to the TS file, we'll first need to bring in the Angular Material side nav module. And then we'll import that into our component in our pages component. Also, we'll need to set up our CSS, and we'll set our outer container, that's this container here. We'll set the position, and we'll make sure that the side nav container takes up the full width and height of the screen. We'll start inside the TS file and we'll bring in this module first. We'll add our changes to the pages component and we'll start inside the TS file by bringing in our module. So I added the side nav module from Angular Material. Then we'll make sure we import this. So within the imports array, add in the module. And that's all the changes we need to make within the TS file. Now moving on to the HTML. And in here, I'll comment out all this content for now, so this isn't confusing things. So let's comment that out. And then at the top here, I'll add in a snippet. And this snippet is from the documentation. And we'll make one change to this for now. I'll add in the opened attribute. What this will do is open this side panel by default when we first load the page so we can see it. And we'll update this shortly. We'll make some changes to this. For example, we don't want the right panel opened by default all the time, so we'll come back and remove this from the second side nav. Next, let's update our CSS. And right here towards the end, I'll paste in another rule. So we'll target the side nav container, the outer container, and we'll make sure we set that container to the full width of the screen and also the full height of the screen. Now we'll need to make sure we add this class, so I'll copy this class here and we'll add that within our HTML. So I'll add in a class attribute to the outer container. And before we actually add this content inside of our side nav panels, we'll test it in the browser, make sure everything's working at this point. This is looking really good. So when we first load the application, both of our panels are opened by default because we add the opened attribute to each of these side navs. Then if you click on the center, it closes both of them, and here is where our main content will go. Now before we actually add our navigation to the panel, let's add a couple buttons to the main section where we can toggle our side panels. Before adding our buttons within the main section here, we'll update the side nav. And here I'll add a reference variable, and I'll call it main nav. And then this one we'll call setting. And now we could add in our buttons within the section element. So this is just two simple buttons, and I added a click event to each one, calling on our reference variable. That's how our button knows which side nav to target. And then we call the toggle method. This will open and close our side nav. And I'm doing the same thing with the setting button. Before we test this, I'll remove this attribute now for the right side. So the right side panel should be closed by default now. Let's test this. Now when we first load the application, our right panel is closed by default and the left one is open by default, and that's good. And then we should have two buttons, one for our main navigation, and then the other one should be for our right navigation. Now let's add in our content. Let's add back in our content. And then we can move these radio inputs. So I'll cut this out. And we can add that within the side nav for the settings. I'll replace this end text here and add in our radio inputs. And that's all we'll need to do within the settings for now. I'll close this down. Now the toolbar, or this breadcrumb right here, cut this out. And we'll add that to the top within the section element. In later videos, we will be cleaning this up when we set up the Angular material toolbar. It'll look a lot better. But for now, it'll be fine here. Then also the router outlet, I'll cut this out. And this is added within the section. I'll add that at the bottom of the buttons. Then we need to bring in our navigation for our main navigation here. And that is inside of another component. I'll go open up the HTML. And this here is going to really get cleaned up when we implement the Angular material list. But for now, we'll just cut this out and clean this up here. I'll move this to the top, save it, then go back into the pages and replace this start text right here, this temporary placeholder, with the UL tag. I'll save it so it formats it. Now we need to do one more thing. We need to bring in our router link, and that is right here inside of the app component TS file. So here I'm bringing in the router link from Angular router. We could get rid of this now. And then down here, I'll cut this out, save this, and then add it within the pages TS file. I'm already including it within the top here where I'm importing it. It's right here. But I just need to bring it within the imports. So I'll add it towards the end. And that's it for shuffling around our content. Let's view it in the browser again. And now we have our navigation within the left panel. And if we select a link, everything still works the same. Our pages update. And then on the right side, we have our settings, and our selected theme should be in there. And this should work the same, as well with our dark and light mode. This is coming along really nicely. Now in the next video, let's improve on this a little bit better. And what we want to do is when the user selects the left panel, we want to push this content that's in the page off to the right so we can see the content and the navigation at the same time. Also, I would like to disable this backdrop that we see in the main content page, and we'll do that in the next video.